Can I use this pen?
Yeah, it's not right.
Oh, is that an extra one or is that yours?
What are you looking at?
The agenda paper.
It's yours now.
Okay. Oh, actually, I don't know. Will Lori want that?
It's underneath. Here, it's underneath your
Oh,
stuff.
it's right behind me. Thanks. I covered it up and I didn't see it. Are you plugging in?
I am.
Hey, Reed.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Good, sorry to make you have to take.
Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Yes.
BTO, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Their one song that I can't think of right now. But if
Yeah.
I knew I heard it, I would say, oh yeah, that's their one song.
No,
Is
it's
it Taking Care of Business?
yes.
That might be it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
See?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see.
It must have been a good concert.
Let It
then. I
Ride.
can't
That's one.
remember.
Let It Ride.
Let It
I
Ride.
just looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Taking
But
care of
it's-
business.
Okay,
Yeah,
see,
taking
that
care
was
of
their
business.
song. I knew.
Roll on down the highway.
Rolling down the highway.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, they have more than one.
Bachman,
Okay.
Bachman, and a Turner. All right.
The interweb is amazing.
It is.
You're quick too.
Oh, once you put Bachman in it, just
There's not a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're looking for annuals.
right.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, speaking of annuals, have they watered the hanging plants since we've had all this heat?
Oh,
Okay, they're struggling. I mean, as most of them are, but
yeah.
I need, if they have a watering schedule, they could probably use an extra one. It's not daily. I don't know if they do it daily or not. Okay. Okay. Even though it rained today, sometimes it doesn't get in those hanging baskets that well, and they're pretty.
All right, it is 5:30. I will call the work session to order. Up first, we have the city manager's report. Mr. Mareck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Let me share the screen here. There it is. All right, so a couple of updates for you. The chicken regulation ordinance that the council discussed at a previous work session, that's going to the planning commission this Thursday. I did have a chance to take a look at the revised draft that the city attorney worked on. So I think if you take a peek at that, there are several changes based on the city council's remarks at your previous work session. I'm guessing the planning commission will have some remarks as well, but then based on that, that'll be coming to a regular meeting. Also really fortunate and excited to be announcing that United Properties has submitted an industrial development concept for the eventual construction of 2 industrial buildings on a property at the northwest intersection, or northwest corner of the intersection at Levi Griffin Road and Jonathan Carver Parkway, or County Road 11. So that'll be also on the Planning Commission agenda for Thursday. And then finally, a public hearing for the sign ordinance to our trunk fee discussion. We've invited them, and initially we had an August date, but they had to reschedule. So they're going to be coming into your September 16th excuse me, work session to be talking about their development plans to give you a better line of sight to what their plan is and how they plan to stage their development based on the city council moving forward with the trunk fee for the community. At your last meeting, I had discussed the possibility or our team looking at some auxiliary parking space at the Public Services Fire Station building, and Erin, Paul, Erik, and Chief Trimbo and I discussed that, and after some discussion, we've decided to press pause on that, so we're not going to move forward with looking at that for now. We'll just use the existing gravel space. Reminder that at your next meeting, you'll be considering a bid award for that 2024 building project. We had been advertising for a Public Services Utilities Technician 1, that posting concluded on Friday, and we didn't get any applications that met the minimum requirements. We got quite a few applications. None of them had water and sewer licensure, and this isn't an entry-level position. It's the next step in that water, wastewater journey, if you will. And so we sent the posting out to the executive director of Minnesota Rural Water and just asked for her perspectives on it, if there's anything we're missing related to requirements or pay. But after some discussion with Paul and Eric, we're gonna repost that position, but for the entry-level position. We were hoping to get some more experience, but we'd rather have someone that we can groom than, rather than having nobody in that spot.
Can I ask you a question about that, Brent? This is actually a resident asked me about it this weekend. They saw it late, so it was after the closing. And one of their questions was, you know, I've worked in mechanics, I've worked in this business, I don't have those certifications. Do we have a program where they have to, within 6 months, they can acquire it or something like that? Are we
For
considering
the,
those things?
for the number 2 position, yes, the Utilities Tech 2, you can obtain it within a year. The Utilities Tech 1, that's an elevated license, so there are quite a few people interested based on pay, but you are going into that and being paid with a kind of a baseline of understanding of water and sewer. So that's why we're moving to the Tech 2, but the Tech 1 doesn't have any ramp up for that position.
So Tech 2 will have some of those
You get-
options for training?
Tech 2 gives you a year to get required licenses, and they're a step down for license.
To a Tech 1 at some point?
Correct. You have to be able to, in order to get some of the licenses, you have to work for a municipal water system for a year. So in reality, like the Tech 1, Utilities Tech 1 spot, you can't obtain the required licenses within a year because you have to get the step below that
Okay.
first. And so that's why there wasn't any wiggle room, which some, you know, I'm not sure who if there was, the person actually applied, but I bet you there was at least 10 folks that were asked, like, can I, you know, train for that? And this isn't a position for that. This Utilities Tech 2 will get us there.
Okay.
And then you don't have to have that minimum license, but also the pay is then corresponding. You don't get the top level pay for the licensures, because that's just diving a little bit deeper. The pay is commensurate with someone having those licenses, and so if they don't, then they drop down. It's like $2 more an hour for the Tech 1 compared to the Tech 2.
Okay, and when are you gonna repost that?
Probably by the end of the week.
Oh, okay. And then it'll be open maybe 2 weeks then, do you think it'll open?
Usually around 3 to 4.
3 to 4 weeks, okay.
Deputy Perper, part of the Carver, Victoria Sheriff's Office team, submitted his resignation to the Sheriff's Office. I'll be talking about this a little bit in the city's staffing plan, but I did reach out to the Sheriff's Office, their administration over the weekend, and just said that we'd be open to the concept of paying either a stipend or a prorated amount of a sergeant. As you probably can attest to, we've had some pretty significant transition from that liaison position, from, you know, Deputy Chafin, Deputy Dearson, Deputy Perper, and then just over the years. And so I think there's some continuity of service, leadership, communications. If we had a kind of a sergeant level position that could help guide and direct that team. We do get support from Commander Wolene and some other staff, but I do think the idea is at least worth exploring with them and what that cost would be, and if Victoria would be interested in that just for a kind of a consistent person. We are served wonderfully by Commander Wolene, just don't know if that's where the Sheriff's Office wants to dedicate that service to. So more to come on that. I shared this last week, but happy to announce that we've appointed Erin Schmidt as the city engineer. So Dan Lannis is going to transition to just kind of a senior advisor role as needed, but Erin's been doing this work and been doing it really well for the past number of years. So, and with that appointment, we've really piled on a lot of work on him in the last couple of days.
Blessing and a curse.
So, but his line of sight to kind of the day-to-day and some of these issues has been really helpful. And so with that, I will transition the rest of these updates over to Erin on the bridge project, the street maintenance project, and the Lions Park.
Oh, I guess
works.
so would we be having a new assistant city engineer as well, or would they just have?
Not at
Erin
this
Moore? Okay.
time. So we do have, so Craig Eldred is a new employee at Bolton and Mink. He's a former public works director in Prior Lake and Waconia. And he's been working with Paul and Eric, I would say, for the last maybe 30 days as kind of a advisor, kind of a mentor in some instances on just kind of line of sight to things that they might not be thinking about, and just kind of bringing up conversations, and that's really paid some dividends. So for now, I think we're gonna stick with Erin as kind of the city engineer, Craig as kind of a special advisor to Paul and Eric, and then, as you know, based on the project, we have other folks from the Bolton and Mink team helping us out. We did just learned too that Michael Jabs is taking another position as a firefighter in a suburban community. So we're going to be transitioning to a new kind of field staff coordinator for the bridge and some of our other local projects. But Erin can answer any questions you have related to that.
Thanks.
Eric, Erin, before you take over, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brent was very, very impressed, as I think I was as well, with all of your work with the floods, especially.
You can see all of us.
I was going to say, I'm always
Yeah.
so careful about like
No, definitely.
we all loved your work. So congratulations, really well done.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, should I jump into projects then?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, so Third Street Bridge, they were planning to actually get mobilized to the site today, but with the rains this morning, they decided just to wait. So we will see work starting out there this week, so they'll get mobilized in with their equipment and start doing some of the surface removals like the sidewalk and the pavement over the culvert, and then really start getting ready to excavate the existing culvert out and prepare for the new bridge. So there'll be a lot of work that's going to be happening here in the near future. Obviously, with the flooding that happened, the timeline was originally planned to have this completely open, for steamboat days. That's really not going to be a reality at this point, just because we lost several weeks. So, unfortunately, that's news that I know that many of us don't want to hear, but that's just the way that it's going to have to be for this one. So we'll have to start talking about, alternative plans with the steamboat days folks on that, but I think we'll get through it. So,
Erin, before you go on to the next item, I know that there were some emails over the weekend about access to
Yeah.
a property owner back there. I know that the answer isn't yes, there'll be access 24/7, but I know you and your staff always do a really great job of letting the property owners and the interested parties know when there's going to be a hard closure and when they won't be able to. Do you foresee that being a huge issue, getting back in there for this project?
no, so that's a really good thing to bring up. I've actually had a couple meetings already with some of the impacted people that are on the project. So met with one in particular today that he had concerns about being able to get in and out. So we kind of went through that with them. We said that once Henches gets their traffic control set up, we'll be able to really kind of walk the site again and make sure that there's a dedicated access route in and out of that property. So the plans lay that out, so it's the expectation that the contractor will do that.
Okay.
And we'll just continue to reinforce that as we move into heavy construction, so,
Thank you.
yep.
Did I interrupt you? Okay.
Yeah.
The street maintenance project, the plan is, so that's Valley Paving. They're planning to get on that project next week. That's the latest schedule update we heard from them. So as it relates to that, we'll have a mailer going out tomorrow that Brenda and the rest of the team here at City Hall will be putting that mailer out tomorrow morning. So that'll be hitting mailboxes this week. That one, I can't remember the exact duration, but that'll probably be, a month and a half or 2 months worth of construction once they get started. So that's the update on that one. And then Lions Park, those courts, that project started today. They were working on getting some subcut materials out of there, so preparing to kind of have the enlarged pad for the courts, and that one will be, it's kind of a slow process just because like after we get the courts constructed, we can't really open them to the public because we need to wait for the pavement to cure so we can do the acrylic surfacing. So it might look at times like things are in pavements cure before we can kind of take those next steps of, okay, now we can do the acrylic surfacing, now we can do the pavement striping. So I'd expect that one probably to wrap up somewhere around Labor Day. But you're not gonna see people there every single day, working. So just be aware of that. It's not that they're intentionally doing that, it's just because we need to let that time pass between activities, so.
And just one note to the property owner to the north, Jim England, is concerned about property lines and distance from the courts to the property line, and so Erin met with him this morning. We're, I think, certifying or verifying the lines before our work is done, but it's a significant concern for him. So if he does reach out, I'd suggest you just passing them along to Erin or me to get to Erin so we can have one point of contact with him, and so our messages can be aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a good conversation out on site, so I think we have a good game plan, get the property line marked out, and then we can make any little adjustments that we might need to based on where the line is in the field, so.
Great. Any questions?
I have a quick question, Erin. Without any weather interruptions, what is typically the time between, you talked about like letting it
Oh,
cure
sure.
before sealing?
Yeah, so the pavement has to cure for a minimum of 30 days before you can put the acrylic surfacing on.
Okay.
So that's kind of the biggest gap. And then, I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's a smaller gap between acrylic and then the final striping.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yep.
All right. Any other questions? Eric, you're good? Okay. All right. City council requests. Any city council requests?
I just had a quick question since Erin's here about the water treatment plant. So I assume we didn't hear anything, that everything went well. We have the new sand and everything in, and all the rain kept our max gallons per day down below, and everything went smoothly.
Yeah, so filters 1 and 2 are online right
Right.
now, so we're making water out of all 4 filters, which is great to see. So that's going well. We're looking at filters 3 and 4 and possibly doing some modifications to those, but those, we haven't really thought about that yet just because we were so focused on getting 1 and 2 back online before we make any decisions going forward on 3 and 4. One last update I do want to share is related to the water tower recoding. Brent, if I could share that. So the contractor actually is mobilizing to that site as well. They're going to start getting started with setting up the equipment for the containment. So basically like the big curtain that will go over the water tower. They're going to start getting ready for that here this week. So we might see that curtain going up as soon as like the tower will go offline. So we're still targeting, we said that they couldn't get started with taking the tower offline until August 1st. That was what we had in the specs. So we're working through that with them, and but just don't be surprised if you see a curtain covering the water tower here in the next week or two. So
Thank you. Let's see, I do have a council request. Based off of the conversations that we've had recently during our council meetings and the planning commission, and I think that this was partially answered in an email that Erin sent and we were copied on, but I would like to know more about what the design standards are in the freeway commercial district. I think based off of the feedback that we've shared with the potential user, the feedback that we've heard from the planning commission, I think it's really important that we make sure that, like, put really simply, those buildings look sharp and want to be something that is welcoming and representative of our community as they literally enter the gateway to the community. So I'm curious, like, if we could maybe get a high-level overview of what is allowed, what's disallowed, is it just freeway commercial, is it any collector commercial, any commercial area off a collector street?
Sure. So different districts have different design requirements. So Lakeview is going to have a different design standard than Hometown Bank. Lakeview's industrial. They're not held to the same standards as a commercial user would be. Related to a recent application that we saw, I would say the design standards that we have are working. So I went back and forth a couple of times with a developer on some versions of a project that they've wanted to move forward with, but based on its tip-up concrete walls, which are not permitted in the freeway commercial district. I would say what we have right now is giving us successful projects that got us Next Steps and Hometown Bank. I would say both are architecturally beautiful buildings. And I would say it's our current design standards for freeway commercial are causing them to pause their current design on the project. So they, over the weekend, we saw a second concept, and they were asking some feedback, what would it take to use tip-up concrete walls? And at that point, it would be a variance, since they're not asking for any other changes, which I said, based on community feedback, council feedback, staff feedback, is likely not a path forward. So I would say in general, they're working. If we want to review them further, we absolutely can. But in general, I would say they're doing a good job right now.
Okay. I'm comfortable if you're comfortable with them, but I just really want to make sure that we have those guardrails in place so that we don't get a building that folks know, like, oh, Carver, aren't you the place that the folks would scrunch up their nose when speaking about anything. So
Well, do you want it to come back at a work session to just review as a group?
I don't mind. I feel like it's a
Yeah.
4-minute conversation, but I would love to
Yeah,
see
that's
what
fine.
that is in depth, and maybe we want to add more teeth to it and just make sure that, although I hear you saying that that's not necessary, but yeah, if we could do it.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're in a good spot, so.
Okay,
Okay, I might as well bring it back though to take a look at it.
Yeah, I think so.
okay,
I would like to also, just to get more like the lingo, like the tip-up walls, and why they would do. I imagine it's more cost-effective for them,
Correct.
but, or even to know, like, the difference in, or an estimate on the difference in cost.
that would be something that would have to come from the contract.
That would have to come from the contract. Okay.
Erin doesn't have a side business.
Right?
And I wouldn't have it
Like,
here.
yeah, I don't wanna have something that's like an extreme burden, but that would be for them to prove.
Correct.
Okay,
Got it.
all right, moving on. Eric, we good to move on? No requests from you?
No, that was really what I wanted to hear about as well, so nothing additional
Okay.
from me.
Okay. I am trying to keep an eye on you. If you guys can help me keep an eye
Oh,
on
yeah.
Eric's
And he's like
something
waving.
yeah, help me keep an eye on him. Not in a keep an eye on him kind of way, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, 10-year staffing plan update. Mr. Mareck.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before I get into the staffing plan update, and I know Lynn kind of provided an overview of the long-term or 10-year financial plan, but starting with the staffing plan, you're going to be getting a whole list of, or a whole range of 10-year plans. And so all of these should look familiar to you. A lot of heavy lifting was done last year with kind of going from 5 to 10. There'll still be some changes as we kind of move on to this 10-year path. I would provide the caveat that every one of these 10-year plans is based on what we understand today. And so the reason that we're bringing this back to you, and we'll bring it back to you year after year, is that conditions change. And so if, we've talked a lot about trunk fees, if we don't move forward with that and housing slows down, then the staffing plan looks different, then maybe the need for a treatment plant looks different, and there's kind of a whole cascading of different impacts. Could be pro or con, depending upon the situation and the issue that you're looking at. And so I just provide that as we get further out, when you start looking at, years 4 through 10, that line of sight becomes a little bit more blurry where, these next few years, we think we've got a pretty good look, but this is the part of the process where you help us find blind spots, you provide us with some direction and leadership, and like, this is what we want the community to look like. And so this is a little bit of a kind of a visual of kind of what that looks like, largely conceptual from years 6 through 10, as we move forward along that continuum. When we get to that year 2 or 1, I think that's where, some extra information can be be provided, council can say, well, can you find this piece of information? We'd like to see that data. And hopefully by the time we get to that budget year, you're saying, okay, I feel really good about this. Now it's just a matter of, can we make this work within that annual budget or not? And what are the constraining issues that either support that or say we should push this back another year? So just kind of a general plan overview. It's being updated in connection with our 10-year plan. It's been reviewed by our leadership team within that 10-year window, and so I'll be going through the changes that we've made. It includes an additional public services utilities position. One of the things that we want to do, and we'd have to kind of memorialize this and get agreement from the union, is we want to, right now we do weekly and weekend on-call for the Public Services Department, and it's, I would say all 6 of our technicians kind of rotate through that. What we'd like to do is split that up and have a general and a utilities on-call. So when our, let's say Eric Madigan is on call, he can handle utility stuff, but it's kind of on a sliding scale, and if it becomes complicated, he's gonna be calling somebody in, and so rather than hoping somebody answers or is available, we want to create a more robust on-call system for nights and weekends so we can handle utilities emergencies, and then oftentimes the utilities emergencies are a little bit more time sensitive. A pump has gone out, a communication failure, and so we want to build towards that. So in the past, you've seen a general technician. This is a utilities technician. You see the July 2025 start date as kind of a, I would say, a budget relief valve rather than kind of dropping that on whole in January of 2025. We start in July of 2025. Another significant change as it relates to 2025 is we've pushed back that deputy's position from July 1 of 25 to January of 26. And this is, I would say, probably the headline for the council to provide feedback on. Just based on my conversations with Commander Woleen and reviewing kind of what we see for turnover and vacancy with our existing team, and then just frankly based on the amount of new expenditures that we're anticipating to have in 2025, it doesn't seem to be that there's enough data to support going to 2025, and frankly, just based on this recent resignation, I'm not sure if we could have that position filled day one. And so, again, open to council feedback. This is just a draft for you to kind of push and pull around. And then I have all the specific plan changes denoted on slides 6 and 7. So this is the existing plan that you saw from last year, again, going from 2024 to 2033. We hired the utility superintendent position a little early. We tried to hire the technician position. We've rolled that into that mechanic previously. That'll be a utilities technician. This is our proposed plan for 2025 to should be 2034. But narrowing down one full-time hire to 2025, the utilities technician. And then I'll give you a second to kind of look at this. Most of this is the same. We did have a number of deletions, which I'll run through. I covered 1 and 2. We moved the general internship position from 25 to 26. Removed the second internship position. The permit tech community development support has been removed. We're going to hire or handle that through a internal promotion in 2025. The finance support position has been removed from the plan. I talked to Lynn about that. We were kind of keeping it as a placeholder, but based on kind of our current staffing levels, we just didn't really see what that position would be at this time. And so as we get closer to that time frame, it might pop up again, but right now just didn't see that happening. And then just some minor changes. The IT position moved back 2 years. Public services technician moved back just based on some other hiring that you see in the plan. The building inspector position is largely a housing start number. So we have that 200 housing starts as a threshold, so it's anyone's best guess on when we hit that, but it could be a combination, frankly, of new housing starts and commercial and industrial development, and so I think the beneficial part to the inspector position, as with other positions, is if we start to get that type of demand for services, there'll be a corresponding revenue increase, and so we should be able to fairly easily fill that position handle that position from a budgetary perspective. The contracted deputy, just to align that, moving the 25 back to 26, move that other deputy back by 1 year, push the management analyst back again. That's kind of I would say the first step in developing a deputy city manager position. Move that back by another year, so that's at the tail. And then it also added, just based on that 1 tech per 1,000, added a technician position in 2034. So I'll go back to the proposed or draft plan. Happy to take comments and switch slides as you need to facilitate the discussion.
All right. Eric, do you want to go first? Do you have anything? Just don't want
I
to
looked down here like you said.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking like,
So, no, I mean, this seems logical, but the fact that we review this on an annual basis and change is needed, I don't really have a concern. I agree that it would be pretty difficult to expect to have a deputy on, supporting us when we seem to be having staffing challenges, even in the shared role we have with Victoria today, which also seems to be working. So, no, I don't have any concerns.
All right. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
Yeah, I just want to say
Go
that
ahead.
I think it looks really good, and I appreciate taking that look at moving things back that maybe we're not seeing that immediate need for. So thanks for taking another look at it, and I am fine with everything the way it's presented.
Reed, did
I
you-
just, so we have 2 open positions currently in the public services, utilities that we're looking to fill, or including the one for next year, or?
We have actually 3, so the
3, okay.
public services director position we plan
Oh, right,
on
okay.
opening up in the fall with a January start date.
Okay.
Then we'll, Vicky, Paul, and Eric are working on a description for the mechanics position, so
Right, okay.
that'll probably be a late summer, fall start, and then by the end of the week, we'll be posting for the utilities tech 2
okay.
position, which hopefully is a July post and a early fall start.
Okay. Yeah, and then I think just echoing Eric's comments, obviously good job adapting to the population growth estimates and trying to, get hard numbers, right, for, like you said, for the building inspector, right? If that comes sooner, right, there's more revenue, but, based on the plan, looks good.
I will add it, we don't identify part-time or seasonal positions, but since you asked that question, I think it'd be a good opportunity. So right now we have 7 seasonal positions, and then 1 like specialized, like kind of gardener position. We are looking at give some more support to that. And then we want to establish, we've budgeted for this in the past, we just haven't filled them, but 2 part-time snowplow drivers that would be kind of on call, just in case we have people on vacation, et cetera. We want to develop kind of a roster of like, hey, Courtney's gone.
Oh, I thought you were going to put me in the truck.
No, you're already, yeah.
We saw you drive.
Do we have enough mailboxes on piled up?
Stop it. Listen,
But
don't hate. Don't yuck my yum.
one of the things that we're going to be looking at is, so we haven't been able to fill those, frankly, because we're not paying enough. We're trying to pay those folks what we would pay someone who was going to mow grass seasonally, and someone who has a CDL is going to require a better pay to get them to do something different than they're currently doing. And so we're looking at that, but they would only be used on occasion, but frankly, we want, speaking of like hitting mailboxes, we want somebody that we can, not you.
He didn't say Courtney hit the mailbox.
Put the mailbox
Maybe
back up.
the mailboxes were too close to the road.
Yeah.
They weren't code.
I've
Yeah.
never hit a mailbox.
So. I've hit a mailbox.
Yeah.
Oh.
But so that's
Okay.
just a little update, what you'll see in the first draft of the 25 budget, this kind of trying to handle some of the growing needs, no pun intended, for part-time work within the confines of the 25 budget.
So advertising, things like that now without a city paper or nearby city paper, how do you expect to get the word out? Because my envisioning this is we're gonna get some retired folks maybe who have their CDL license still, who are gonna pick up something like that. Where are they going to see that?
So for like a position like that, we'd put it in our newsletter, we'd put it on social media, website. I think we'd probably start with our less costly, like we'd probably start with like just the newsletter and social media. And then if we weren't getting anybody, then we'd escalate it.
There's also, we advertise a lot in Carver County, but Scott County is right over the river here. I mean, there's the Scott County scene that goes out to the county there, and that's only, I think it's quarterly, but if we knew in time, maybe there's some options hopping across the river since actually that's so close, and
Sure.
see if we can catch somebody from over there if we can't get them.
Brent, are those seasonal positions union?
No. They are, the part-time positions are covered, but seasonal are not.
Let's see. I know you're on deck, Lori, if you have anything, but let's see. So I kind of echo everybody's thoughts, comments. I am in support of holding off on the deputy. I think unless anything changes here in the city, I honestly feel like once we're staffed back up, it's gonna feel like adding additional deputies because unfortunately, I'm struggling to remember the last time that we were fully staffed on the Carver side and then adding the Victoria side of things. It has been years, unfortunately. So I'm completely in favor of holding off until January 2026. And it is my sincerest hope that we get to full staffing within that amount of time because I think it's gonna be a hard sell to add another deputy if we continue to be anything less than 100% staffed.
And we don't necessarily even know how it operates right now being full staff because it's been such a long
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
And
So,
we've never been fully staffed on the Carver Victoria
No,
model.
true, yeah.
excuse me.
My other, and I'm sorry if this is a silly question, but the internship program, that's an annual internship, that we will do one internship a semester or a summer or whatever it is, starting next year.
Yeah, it'll be like annually, so we'll,
Okay.
depending upon how long they're available but yeah, so it would be an annual allocation.
Okay. That's it for my questions. Anything from you?
Yes, as far as the contractor deputy, it would be nice to have him sooner, but I realize that even if we ask for it, we probably won't get it. And I'm comfortable with where we're at, like I don't think we have a public safety concern. If we did, I would feel totally different, but as far as when it comes to planning for budgets, that looks great. It would be helpful to see what Mayor Johnson was just talking about, if that internship is every year, to see kind of a line item for each year.
We'd have a line item every year for it.
Okay. But just even for this, seeing the existing 10-year, one every year.
Okay, so maybe that's a bad example. Communications specialist isn't in every year after 2028.
But every year, do we add an internship? Oh,
No, we're
okay,
not-
So the internship is
Yeah.
a short,
Gotcha.
okay, got
We're
it.
just adding the position.
It's
It could be a
but
different
it's
person.
less slot.
When's the last time we had an intern?
Uh,
Oh, that's fine. Like,
10
That
10
kind of
years.
answers it.
about 10 years. We had,
Okay,
Hot sec.
yep,
we had two in the old building.
okay, all right.
Jake Hartman and Andrew Brunick, not Buddy.
Not buddy.
Not funny.
Okay, it's, sorry, I'm looking at like both my screens because we've got the existing, or what was last year, so now we added the year. So I'm happy to see the communications specialist is actually, do you mind going back to the other one? I'm happy to see the communication specialist is still there for 2028. I just feel like we keep pushing that out. Like it's kind of a comfortable one. Like, and I don't think we keep pushing out. Maybe when I first got involved, it was a concept, but I think that's something I was hoping for sooner. So I really hope we don't have to postpone that, just because I see a need for it. And I see too, now when we look out an additional year, a lot of these positions are going to demand a higher salary because that's the market. But I guess it's good to see that we're accommodating for the market. Otherwise, like, no concerns. I mean, it makes sense what you're expecting for proposed, so. But that's probably my biggest thing is that communication specialist.
All right, moving on. Up next, we have the 10-year Parks Plan update. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Following the same programming that Brent just went through, it's an update of the 10-year park plan that we worked on pretty extensively last year, so adding an additional year to the end of the 10-year park plan. So last year, we created a baseline for our existing park system. Paul Schultz, Eric Madigan, and I went out and we visited all the parks. We identified needs, just baseline, like things like, we'll need new benches in this park, all the way to big dreamy ideas that we're going to add to an updated parks plan in the future. So we were able to create a baseline of where we're at with our parks right now and where we'll be in the next 10 years to support the Parks Master Plan. So the Parks Master Plan outlines future projects. So we talk a lot about Creekside was big in the Parks Master Plan, which is the park we're working on County Road 40, the downtown park, the future park in the South Growth area, hopeful park someday at Mueller's when we can have a beautiful swim beach. So all of those really big projects outlined in the Parks Master Plan, but we didn't have that baseline of what we had in our current system. So we were missing kind of an arm of our parks plan at that point. During our conversation last year, the City Council identified Lions Park as a need. So 2024, obviously we're working on that now this summer to get the courts fully redone, adding pickleball to Lions Park, which will be really fantastic. And then we discussed an additional park project to include in the 10-year plan, and the council identified the community park shelter for full replacement for 2029. Fun fact reminder that the shelter was originally in Riverside Park, and it was moved up to Community Park. It's really heavily used by teams, community members, so something that you identified as a need for 2029 potentially. Beyond that, there have not been any additional changes to the proposed plan. So the 10-year plan that we reviewed last year is the same. We just tack on that additional year that we've moved through already. So quick overview, park dedication is a bit different. So thinking about new parks that we're thinking about won't be included in the 10-year park plan the same way. So a park like Creekside, it's in the park master plan, but we're paying for it with park dedication instead of our budget. So park dedication is always required anytime a project is platted. We can either accept land or cash in lieu of land. It's tiered on the type of development, so residential has a different requirement than commercial or industrial, which typically have less park users on a day-to-day basis. And then funds must be used for new parks and trails. We had a discussion about that pretty recently, talking about the skate park, which is something I think we'll talk a bit about in the 2025 budget. And then park dedication, we talked through with Dave. We are not at a point where we're using it for maintenance. The City Council has directed staff to work on an updated park dedication number for the 2025 fee schedule. So our current fee per residential unit is $4,070, which was established in 2018. A lot has happened since then. Costs have gone up. Carver has changed a bit. So as part of the 2025 fee schedule, you'll see an updated park dedication number based on the Parks Master Plan to continue collecting money for new parks.
Erin, can I ask you a question before
Yeah.
we move on? So we have basically just two tiers. It's commercial industrial dollar amount, and then it's residential dollar amount.
Correct.
Let's say as the city expands and we get out towards Gaystock Lake, and we have a office building going next to it. Is there any leeway to have a higher park dedication fee or something like that? I mean, you make assumptions, right, when you talk about this stuff, that these many people from whatever business might be out using the park. But if you have an office building rather, where people kind of come and go more, would they be more apt to use the trails that are right out back behind that? Or is that, it has to be just one set fee for everything?
So the difference between the way we collect for residential, it's per unit, where commercial industrial, it's per acre.
Okay.
So that's the change between the two.
So it's not by unit at all? Does anybody do it, or is that state statute, it has to be by acre?
Every city does it a little bit different. That's just the way that we do it based on our comp plan. So we dialed in how much of our future growth area is residential versus commercial. I think it was like 90% residential, so 90% of our park dedication needed to be captured by residential users, where 10% needed to be captured by commercial industrial users, so that's where the per acre came in.
Okay,
Is it like acre of land there or like square foot of the building, right? So
Acre of land.
okay, thanks.
So a quick overview of the 2024 project, so Lions Park. And then the potential update for 2029 of the community park shelter. Some numbers that we associated with both projects. And then the spreadsheet of contributions into our park fund over the next 10 years. Again, these numbers have not changed from last year. We just added the additional 2034 number at the bottom. Brent might be adding something.
Oh,
One second.
sorry, Brent.
Just wanted to add,
Brent.
yeah, okay.
sorry, I just wanted to add two footnotes. One on the community park shelter. We're preparing to allocate some money in the 25 budget for some door replacements and some other minor repairs that can't wait till 2029. So expect to see that. And then also this is, it seems like a long time ago since we talked about this, but you will notice the skate park isn't in this. And so there, at this point, unless the council would direct and say we want it in there isn't a plan to show in the 25 budget based on this plan, another skate park. And so if you want some more time to think about that, that's kind of part of this process, or if you want to see it, that's the kind of direction that we would need, but based on some of the other things that we know are kind of known quantities, we're not anticipating putting that in there, or I'm not anticipating putting that in the 2025 draft. If you say, nope, we want to see that number, or let's plan for 26 or some other year and massage some things. But I think the last check, we were at like $150,000 for skate park equipment that would be comparable to what we had in that existing parking community. So just wanted to kind of drop that conversation nugget with the council prior to opening it up.
Is that something we can do where we maybe do partial, where we get some pieces in and we can add some pieces? I think the community spoke that was something that they saw as part of their community and part of the things that their kids use. It also services a different area than the new skate park that went in. So I think that we should do something. We had a lot of feedback on that after it came out, and I think, at least for me, I feel like the community has spoken about that. So maybe it's not something that we can outfit all at once, but we could outfit partially. And then I know when we talked about the dollar amounts, did you kind of just go to one company and see what they had, or did you shop around a little bit? Just for, I realize you're just getting a preliminary number, so it may not be very.
There's only one company left that does skate park equipment that was similar. So the above ground ramps that we had, American Ramp is the only group that still produces that same product. Everyone else has moved to concrete, similar to the skate park in Ironwood.
In the nation or in Minnesota?
Nation. The American Ramp is not local to Minnesota.
Okay. Just find that hard to believe. I'm
So,
not saying I don't believe you.
That
I
will
just
be
find
my
it hard to
second
believe.
business. I'm going to do tip-up concrete and skate parks.
Skate parks. Yeah, start a new business.
Anything else, Christy?
No.
Okay, Reed?
Yeah, so just on the park capital fund, so is this idea that we would, similar to our street maintenance fund, where we'd be putting a little bit every year for kind of the bigger projects that we're trying to, not like the skate park, if we had, you know, existing capital fund similar, right, the skate park would fit into that very, or the new skate ramps, right, would fit into that. So is that the, like the 2026, right, 150,000, if that's what the skate park, we think is that, right, I mean, that's what this is used for, right? And then at 2026, the council would decide, hey, let's add some skate park equipment or other, I guess I'm saying, we don't have dedicated projects for the fund yet, right?
Loosely, so like 2024 was Lions Park, 2029 you identified community. So if you wanted to suddenly add something in there, it would need to be a larger council discussion to reprioritize some of those
okay.
projects. But in general, yes, that's how the fund works, where each year you contribute more to do some of those maintenance or
Bigger,
replacement
okay.
projects.
So if we're adding money to this after what we've spent this year on Lions Park, are we gonna be at a zero?
Yes,
Okay.
but correct me if I'm wrong, that Lions Park, the funding that we allocated in 2024 wouldn't have covered that project.
Sure.
It was the dissolving of the enterprise funds that paid for that
Yeah,
project.
Okay.
Okay. When we were talking about the equipment, is that with install, is that something that our public services can install to get the price down?
Probably parts of it, but not all of it. Like I know, looking at the pictures from 20 years ago in Community Park, went in, I know Paul Schultz was out there putting some slides together, so.
So they're capable. I mean,
I know he's done it
Yeah.
before.
They can put them together. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be something that brings the cost down.
Yep.
And then it just, you know, I'm on the county park board, so we're going through our park plan as well, and doing new playground equipment is shockingly expensive. So do we have a plan, like you said, kind of an assessment on when we think the equipment in the community park would need to get placed, or Lions Park? Is that, you know, I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, that the park capital fund will get used up pretty quick.
Correct. I would say if you were to ask us in a dream world, how quickly do these projects happen? It's faster than what this plan would call for, just
Sure.
because our equipment is aging.
Yeah.
We didn't have a strong baseline of where we were at prior to last year, so it's helpful to have a plan moving forward,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's going to happen as
No,
fast as we
obviously,
may have
okay.
wanted it to.
Right,
Have you looked
okay.
at the grant programs? There's a few online,
Yeah, we are always out there looking for them.
the skate park grants.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, yep.
All right, Eric?
So, you know, I understand the desire to look at replacing the skate park. I think it was more about the type of equipment offered a different experience than the concrete park did. I'm not an expert in what those differences are, but I think that was some of the comments made, that above ground type of structure was an experience that people thought they wouldn't get at the new park. Have we had any additional feedback? Have we had any additional requests since removing the equipment, Erin, that would help guide us in whether we should continue to look at this?
So we got feedback when it was first removed, but since then we have not.
Was it in the community survey? Did we have something about it? Was that a question in there?
I don't think that's specifically.
It wasn't specifically towards skate parks, but there was like a general amenity question.
Okay, do you remember how it
It was
fell?
open-ended. I don't think it was significant. So I'm struggling with that one a little bit. I know that we saw a little
Sure.
overwhelming or more than
Yeah.
20 people, to be honest. I know that it was jarring, and I will admit, I don't know that we communicated that in the most transparent way that we could have, and we always learn with those kinds of things. But knowing that we're looking at $150,000 and looking at how long that's going to take us to fill up the park capital fund, I think if we were having this conversation 2 years ago, we would have said the plan was always to transition the skate park up the hill into Ironwood Park. So I'm not feeling that pressure.
All right,
Sorry.
well, that helps me if there hasn't been any additional resident requests that the city pursue that. The other thing again is I need to understand if there really is a difference. I don't know that we need an additional skate park only if it offered some different level of experience you can't get in the new park. But barring that, I guess it isn't a priority for me. That's my only comment.
Can I rebuttal to Erin?
Maybe make a comment.
Well, yeah, well, whatever you want to call it. I want to, can I reply to him?
It's
Yeah.
not a debate.
Eric, I just want to mention, hearing your comments, that we also haven't asked for any more feedback. We told people, hang tight, we're going to talk about this again. We haven't talked about it again to the public either. So we gave them a direction to let us come back to you with something, and then we haven't said anything more about it either. So,
And as you all know,
What was, sorry.
Go ahead, Eric.
yeah.
What was helpful the last time we did this, and Christy, you'll probably remember that, is we had a bunch of skate park users come in and tell us what we want, based on what was available at the time, and we acted on some direction from skaters, from parents, but to your point, Christy, I don't know that we have the money. I don't know how deep a demand there is, but maybe it helps guide us to know if we had somebody conducted a poll of the people that use the park, if there's some amenity that can be changed in the existing park. I guess I'm spitballing here, but if Erin isn't receiving requests, the only thing that I don't know how we would poll for that. How would we ask, what do you need to see that we don't have today? And maybe, Erin, I'll let you answer that question, how we might get that information from the people that use it.
I think there's one more thing too, is that when you look at planning parks out, there's different standards for radiuses of how many people you're serving per amenity. I don't know if any of that has been looked at either, but I know back in the day, we would look at this many of this amenity per how many thousands of people, made sense, and that was a bit of a guideline that we would take a look at when we were considering our park projects. And again, considering the level of traffic that we have in 11, yes, we have underpasses. But the actual length, mileage that it's away from, that they're separated by, they're kind of serving two different areas of town. Because I think a lot of these youth, at least when I have witnessed them, which has been a lot on the corner of the skate park there, they ride their bikes there. Yeah. So our parents letting them ride their bikes from up in the brand new development up by, towards 212 all the way down here, or is it the folks from the Bluffs and Mount Hope and downtown Carver that are using the one at Community Park? So I guess, Erin, are those standards still something that you can?
yeah, it's a per acre. I don't remember the last time I looked at it, but we were above. I don't remember what we were working on, but our per acre amenity was above the standard, the national standard by the Park and Recreation Group.
For skate parks or for everything?
No, for all
Oh, okay.
amenities, yeah. And I can go to American Ramp and say to them, what does a 50% project look like? And I think we're all familiar enough with the budgeting process that we can include it and we can talk about it and take it out if things get tricky. And I think we can continue this conversation. I don't think we need to make a decision tonight about it.
You don't
Could
wanna
we
talk
add
this
it-
for 10 more minutes?
Well, I just don't know if we'll come to a solution that feels
No,
right
there's
for
no,
everyone.
we gotta look at all the avenues. that are-
Yeah.
I mean, should we add it to the plan itself on the park plan? I mean, I
I
would
have some
support that.
feedback that right now I don't support it, and I can give some feedback that will give the reason why. I really like the park plan approach. I like that this is having us be good stewards of our existing park system and also just the amenities and taking care of the existing infrastructure. I do have a question on being familiar with the budget process. So if this means we replace it in 2029, when do we approve of the budget and when do they take out the old, put in the new? Like,
So
so that I could tell somebody, oh yeah, the budget's this year and you'll see a change spring of 2029, 2030.
So if you wanted to swap out the community park shelter, the 2029 project for the skate park, it would be part of the 2029
Nope,
budget.
I'm not talking skate park or anything, just like what your presentation was. So when you we'll replace the park shelter as needed in 2029,
So
when do we approve of that
so
dollar amount?
you'd approve the dollar amount in 2028 with the,
Okay.
with
For
the
the
2029 budget process. And we would plan for that for like probably a spring of 29.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. I didn't wanna- So
You're fine.
then we're looking like 5 years out. As far as, so that answers when it would start. I would rather see like the 2034, knowing that, 10 years from now, we'll be asked, the existing council will be asked to approve, for some existing infrastructure, park amenity, that we just be a little flexible, because I don't think 10 years ago I would have skate park, when we have the money, let's revisit it. I will say, going past there quite often, the age demographics have really changed since it's a lot more focused on pickleball than skateboards. So,
Well, there's nothing to skateboard on.
right, yeah, exactly. But just it's. I feel comfortable like knowing that we can wait and get some community feedback. Like I don't want to say today, we'll put this new.
Oh, I don't want, that's
Or
not,
not
well,
me, but-
I mean, I just think Erin can provide us with some more information
Yeah.
about.
Yes. Like I'm not hearing anything of we really miss it or
Or we haven't asked
some
anything.
back.
So
So
if
we're
I
also
can-
not asking.
If I can interrupt, I found the question in the community survey.
Oh, good.
Question was, what additional park and recreational amenities would you like to see if offered? It's question number 64, if you care. If trails, ask, would you like to see mountain biking trails or walking and jogging trails? Unsure was 12%, nothing was 38%. Walking and jogging trails was 15. Mountain biking trails, 11. Dog park, 3. Benches and tables, 3. Restrooms, 3. Lighting, 2. Pool/splash pad, 2. Fishing pier, 2. Scattered, 8.
And we didn't any
It was an
questions,
open,
we just completely open.
opening one. Yep. So,
Did we have any 15-year-olds who took this?
no, had to be 18, I think.
So what's, I guess maybe more of a Erin or Brent, so what's the process to add something to the plan? Do we need like an official vote or?
So it would be a council request, and then we would revise the 10-year parks plan with that project.
So I'm gonna be honest, though, if I'm taking numbers, I don't hear support for it overwhelmingly.
Sure.
For skate park.
Skate park, okay.
Well, do you want to ask quick? Because I would
Eric
like to
said
see it.
no, I'm
Right.
no.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
Lori's
no. I like the approach we have right
Okay.
now.
Well, what about the like playground and that kind of stuff? Do you have a timeline, lifespan when we think we should start looking at replacing those, right? Because we can't use the park dedication fund, right? So we'd have
That's
to be
correct.
using
So
this capital.
this is the fund, and I was gonna say before, like, we did this exercise, and I'm sure it was before
Okay.
your
Probably,
time.
okay.
But we went through, and it was a à la carte menu of community park playground, the bleachers at
Okay.
Lions Park. I'm looking you to help me fill in the blanks for the other things. There were
Okay,
probably
we've
half
already,
a dozen.
okay, okay, no
Yeah.
problem. That makes sense.
And
Thank you, Courtney.
Which doesn't mean we can't reshuffle the deck
Reshuffle it,
chairs.
okay.
I think my feedback and where my head is at with this is, are we funding this appropriately? Like $25,000 is a good start, but
Yeah,
do we need
okay.
to start adding $5,000 a year and in year 2? Because as we're looking at this, we're waiting until 2020. We've got aging infrastructure in terms of playground equipment
Yeah.
at Community Park, and unfortunately, when a slide breaks and can't be replaced anymore, somebody's kiddo gets a gash in their leg.
Right.
So are you saying like 2025 would be 30, 20, or maybe we start at 2026, whatever. That would go to 30, then 35, then 40, then 45, is that what
I don't know
you're
that I have a
thinking?
number, and I guess I would hope to maybe lean on the team.
For
to
budget. Yeah, I would
see,
support
but
an
I
increase.
think we need to
Yeah.
consider
I agree with that.
funding this a little bit more, because stuff's.
Yeah, like, I'm sure we can just think of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just a clarification, so the second column to the left, that's the increase
I'm
to the
sorry.
total.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I was,
Plus sign.
So you're,
Dummy, if you were reading this correctly. It's-
so you're
Yeah.
going, you're increasing it to 50,000 from last year.
So it's going up by 25
25
each
a
year.
Correct, it's going
all
up
right, I
by
was thinking that was
25.
just adding $25
Okay.
a year. That's what I was thinking. I
Right.
was thinking
Okay.
the increase was just in the overall.
Okay.
So like to the mayor's point though, the street maintenance fund, which Erin will be talking about next, we were increasing by 100,000. I would also offer though, like, usually this is, like, these contributions are first on the chopping block. We didn't fully fund the capital that we had last year, and so,
Sure.
just because budgets get tight, I mean, I'm not advocating for this, but if you said, like, we want the skate park, you know, you could certainly push back the shelter by a couple of years too. I mean, you can move pieces
Gotcha.
around, we can do some outreach. Erin can get connected on what $50,000 looks like.
So I think acknowledging that I was reading the graph wrong, I still, like, that's helpful context that we didn't fund it fully last year. You know, I think there are two options, which there always are. We either fund it more, or we realize that this is like any savings account, and the more consistently that you add
yeah.
to it, the more you'll have. In 2034, whoever's sitting in our chairs will have almost $2 million if we don't spend anything in 2029. But what we put into this savings account.
Sure.
Can I just add one editorial comment? Like, I don't know if we could have done it differently, but I know our approach to looking at parks maintenance is different now, just considering the experience that we went through. And I would offer that, I don't know the percentage, but some part of the response that we received was due to, I would say, like the kind of the shock of, like, this kind of beloved amenity is going away. Because there was it wasn't just kind of an initial, like, oh, we're disappointed, but there was kind of like a very curious and concerned, and in some fashion, like, not trusting of, like, the city's, like, response to it. And so, like, and I think we've as a team learned a lot from that, but I would you know, maybe unpopular opinion, like, there aren't too many communities that I'm aware of that have two skate parks, especially the size that we're in.
Sure.
And so I would be happy to take the lead on just kind of, like, going out back to the community and kind of, whether it's through a Survey Monkey tool that we can publish through our newsletter, but kind of getting, like, a refresher, because that's been about a year.
Yeah.
And I think most of the frustration, in my opinion, was based on how I handled that and how it was communicated out, and it was like, it's going down next week, and it was and people have been using that for decades.
Yeah.
And so when something happens suddenly, I think there is a kind of a test people's trust and relationship, and I think we learned about that. We just talked to Paul and Eric about going through equipment now and seeing if there's anything that we need to be talking about. So I think the issue is complex, more than just, do we need amenity X and amenity Y? Just my editorial opinion. Take it for what it's worth.
I think you're right that the issue is complex. It was,
Yeah.
you know, part of it also is that it was taken down in a snowless winter when it
Yeah.
might have been used, versus winter of 2022 when it probably would have been under a couple feet of snow
yeah.
and not used during the winter. So lots of wrinkles to that.
I guess I have one budget-ish related question from new person. So I assume we have a general park maintenance fund as well for, like, the mowing and that kind of simple repairs, and this is more bigger like I said, replace the Lions Park, you know, tennis courts or playgrounds, right? So
Correct.
we already have okay. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
I guess depending how this shakes out, if we do ask the community, it doesn't have to be just skate park. If that happens to go out, then I would maybe at that point consider an increase if something came back that was really strong.
Sure.
For me right now, knowing, again, I also read
Oh,
this graph
gotcha,
incorrectly,
that's it.
so, knowing that it's an additional 25 every year,
pretty- yeah.
considering the economy that we're in right now, I feel comfortable, but I would be happy to look at it again, if I'm sitting in this seat again, to say maybe the next year is something better. And again, that could also hinge on the fact if we get some really strong community feedback about whatever XY, a piece of equipment might be, I might think differently about it, but.
Yeah, so just playing devil's advocate,
Sure.
I will argue that we already surveyed the community about what they want in terms of the community survey, and we didn't hear many big, kind of getting into this again, we didn't hear many big, what I would call like park infrastructure investment pieces. So, again, walking trails, mountain biking trails, dog park, check, got that. Benches, tables, those seem easy, restrooms, but again, like most of these are, the exception of walking and jogging trails and mountain biking trails, everything else is low single digit, like 4%. So, but I think we've asked that question already, the community.
I'll counter a little bit that again, that was an adult-based one who I can't say for sure what everyone, but if someone called me, I might not be thinking about what my nieces and nephew might be looking for as much as I am. However, we didn't have, as you stated, there wasn't the support for that. So if the rest of the council changes and wants to take a lead to look at what the community is looking for, of course, I'm obviously happy to go along with that because we know that I've made it clear that I think that the skate park should go back in there. If not, if the rest of the council decides, the majority, it's not the way we want to go, then piggybacked on that, then I'm absolutely not in favor of increasing this per year at this point in time.
I'm ready to transition on from this. Does anybody
I'm done, yeah.
else?
Do you have anything else, Eric?
Eric, looking at you.
Do you want to make it clear then we're,
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Well, we need to get on to the next piece. I don't know that we have a survey monkey for 15-year-olds, but that's our it probably wasn't the community survey, so, but I think we can take that idea up later if we want to survey the people who use the park. Let's move on.
Do you have what you need from us?
I'm just trying to measure expectations, and so am I hearing just leave this as is?
For me, yes.
Kristen, I think we should put the skate park on there, but I don't think we have support.
I also think we should put the skate park on there. If we have the support.
Eric, Brent's question was, is the feedback that we're giving overwhelmingly leave the 10-year parks plan update as is?
We're gonna readdress this next year, right?
Yes.
So
That's
we
true.
have an opportunity to interview our target audience and make a determination if it should be added in 2025. So I'd say leave it as is, but, let's ask some questions so we're ready the next time we make some decisions.
Okay. And we'll still follow up and get options related to like what you can get
sure.
at certain dollar amounts, so you can have that, and if you choose to do that with that, what you will, but we'll just keep this as is for now.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, moving on to the next one. Erin Schmidt, we like to stop at 10 minutes. Do you feel like you can do this in 7 minutes, or do you want to start? Would you like to wait until the regular meeting?
I could at least get started.
Okay.
Do some of the front-end stuff, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Sure.
We can reconvene. So I'll share. Okay, so this is the 10-year street plan update. So this involves streets, parking lots, and trails. 10-year pavement management plan. Just some definitions. Do you all want to go through this? Or do we want
I
to?
think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
We've
Yep.
seen this a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's in the packet, so you can review those, but basically, the goals are, we're trying to have a well-organized plan so we can set budget expectations, group projects by areas to the extent possible, so we're not in neighborhoods disturbing people's lives for, random every other year for a decade type of a thing, so that's a goal, and then, mill and overlays are about half the cost of reclaim, so we want to try to do the mill and overlays before they fail and go to a reclaim, which is much more expensive, so. A lot of things that are already in the plan. Amazingly, the plan was first started in 2021, and it's really evolved since then, which is fun to see. So some of the things that are in there, obviously that continued focus on the street mill and overlay program. We have the dedicated local street maintenance fund, which funds all local improvement projects, and then the state aid fund is for all the MSA routes. We're trying to chip seal our collector streets in year 3. And then last year we added in the parking lot fog sealing, mill and overlays, and rehabs or replacements based on needs. So that's something we started to build out in the plan last year. That's continuing through the current plan as well. And then trails, fog sealing and trail replacement program as well. ADA transition plan was adopted in the past 2 years, so incorporating some of those sidewalk and pedestrian ramp improvements in conjunction with those street projects is also within this current plan. Some of the new things we talked about for this year, increasing our not property reserves, but just maintenance reserves for general maintenance. So as we talked about earlier, Parks has like a maintenance fund which funds the minor projects. So street maintenance is all under the envelope of the street maintenance fund. So that includes everything from, just community signing and striping refresh, if we're adding a digital speed sign, all those sorts of things are kind of under this big envelope. So just to help capture those one-off items, we're recommending increasing that from 25 to 35,000 on an annual basis. Also contingency for projects. Since this is a planning level document, we had previously projected a 10% contingency. We thought it'd be appropriate to go up to 15%, looking ahead, just because you don't have a clear line of sight to every single thing that can happen on a project. This year we're going to be doing the sidewalk replacement along 4th Street, for example. That was something that, when you're looking at stuff from a very high level, you don't really think about. So just having a bigger contingency helps with that. And then inflation rate, it was recommended by the finance team to go to 3% versus 2%, which is the previous assumption. So then based on all of those things, I shifted projects around a little bit as needed just to make sure that we were positive from a cash flow perspective. So you'll see a few things as we get into it, how we just shifted things maybe 1 year, one way or the other. So I'll pause there. Any questions for new plan assumptions?
I have one if we're on the slide. So for the 10% to 15% for contingencies, besides when we get into these really, where we're really reconstructing a road, to me it seems that a lot of this chip sealing and these other things should be pretty straightforward because we're not tearing up the entire road. So I'm not quite on board with why we need to go from 10 to 15%. We're already raising the reserves by 10% or by 10,000, and then adding inflation into it as well. And I think that I realize that things do occasionally happen and go wrong, but most of these street things are at the upper levels of the road services, that we're not digging all of these completely out. Yes, some of the mill and overlays get down a little bit farther, but that road's already there. We're not generally, at least I don't believe, going to uncover a brand new spring that we didn't already know was there, right? Because if it was there, you'd already seen it. So jumping that part for contingency, and I think we need to hold some of these contractors to their dollar amounts. I realize that there is always an unknown, but that's what that 10% is for.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to supplement on that, when we're looking at these, I'm doing like length times width calculations from a planning level perspective. So like one thing, for example, I put in here signing and striping. So when we did Monroe Drive, chip sealing, you know, we had to restripe the whole road. So it's just some of those things that, again, from a very high level, it's hard to capture those. So,
But if we were chip sealing, we would have known we needed to restripe it, right? Like those should have been like things we would have seen already or known already. right?
yeah, so, but what I'm saying is, you'd have to consciously like go like street by street and, you know, spend the time like tabulating out how many feet of striping you need for this segment and that segment. So like we're doing this from a GIS high level, you know, length times width calculation. So it's my opinion that it doesn't hurt to have a little extra contingency on the front end, just so when you get to the actual like project design and implementation of that, you're not going to be having this discussion with me in the future saying, why do we not have enough on the front end from a budgeting perspective? So that's my take on it, but I'm totally open to your input on it. So.
Erin, do I hear you saying that this is a plan contingency and not like a project contingency when we're looking at project awards?
Good point. So this is just from a pavement management plan perspective across the board, just adding a 15% contingency.
So this isn't
Once we get
a
into
contract.
budgeting
Okay.
a project,
okay.
I'm gonna come to you say, yes, let's preserve a 10% contingency for the 2024 street project.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And then what if
Yes.
we don't use it? How does it roll back in? Is it something we bonded? I mean, is this?
Yeah, so this is literally a fund. It's like a
Okay.
bank account.
So it
if
just
we don't use
is
it,
we put it into
just
something
it's
else?
still in there.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks for that explanation. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna take a look at the
Yep.
time, and as they say, put a pin in this, and we will come back to slide 5 of the pavement management plan, 10-year streets plan update. That, can I get a motion to adjourn the work session?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Welch and a second by Councilmember Sayer. All those in favor, we need to do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Welch,
Aye.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye.
Councilmember Perschmann,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Actually, we don't need to go. I'm ready to get up and go to the other room, but I'm like, wait.
Yeah, I'm thinking project plan, not
Yeah.
overall, so thank you.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
that would be a lot.
Okay.
Going into a project.
Yeah, okay.